Every year, thousands of people die without leaving a will. If no relatives come forward, then their estates will go to the government. Keeping this money in the family is a job for the heir hunters. On today's programme, will the travelling heir hunters be able to keep up with the frantic pace in the office?
Dave, it's David here in the office. I need to speak to you as soon as possible. Looks like we've got another address. I would like you to go around as soon as possible.
And the heir hunters are contacted by the neighbours of a derelict house which is causing them grief.
We got the council involved because of the break-ins. It kept getting broken into all the time. And those hypodermic syringes and all things like that. It's terrible.
Plus, we'll have information on some of the hundreds of estates still waiting to be claimed. Could you be in line for a windfall? Two-thirds of people in the United Kingdom don't have a valid will, and therefore no record of their last wishes. If they die before they've made one and no next of kin are found, their money goes to the government, who last year alone made a whopping £18 million from unclaimed estates. That's where the heir hunters step in.
Pleased to meet you.
More than 30 heir hunting companies make it their business to track down long-lost relatives, and it can be rewarding for the unsuspecting heirs. In the last 10 years alone, one of the oldest companies in Britain, Fraser & Fraser, has enabled a staggering £100 million to be inherited.
Morning, Pam.
It's Thursday, the office's busiest day of the week. Overnight, the Treasury has published its latest list of unclaimed estates, so the team have been up early hunting for cases worth pursuing further. Company partner Neil Fraser has homed in on the estate of Peter Hollins.
We can be looking at an estate value of £150,000 to possibly £300,000. Certainly a good valuable case. So it's really, we will get straight onto that.
A valuable case like this will attract competition, so the team need to work quickly.
Right, who's got the Hollins job?
Initial investigations show that Peter Hollins died aged 70 in his home in Croydon, Surrey. His friend Tom first met him over 35 years ago at a party.
With people around him, he was very bubbly, a very bubbly man, very entertaining. He loved people around for dinner. That was one of the main things he loved to do. He used to love to cook, parties. But underneath all this, he was very, very lonely.
Peter never married, and as he died without leaving a will, his estate, which could be worth as much as £300,000, will go into the Treasury's coffers unless heirs are found. Researcher Simon is put onto the case. Immediately he starts looking for the all-important birth record. Simon knows this is his most important task of the day so far, but already it's not going well.
For our deceased, we can't find a birth for him. If the address we've got is correct, should have been born in the March quarter of 1939, and there isn't one that we can find. So trying a few variations, otherwise potentially adopted.
Okay, that's gone.
Without a birth certificate, it's virtually impossible for the team to build up a family tree, as they will be unable to verify the names of Peter's parents. Hitting brick walls in the office, they start to explore other avenues.
We're going to deploy Dave Hadley. He's going to head down there, do an inquiry, speak to some of the neighbours. There's not very much on the phone at the moment, so we'll just see where that leads us. But Dave's our key man at the moment.
Ex-police officer Dave Hadley is one of a number of travelling heir hunters based up and down the country, who are just waiting for a call to be dispatched wherever the case takes them. They play an invaluable role, picking up vital birth, death and marriage certificates, as well as gathering information from neighbours. but their really key job is meeting and signing up heirs ahead of the competition. With nothing concrete to go on in the office, it's down to Dave to see if he can uncover information about Peter.
The idea is to speak to neighbours, speak to friends, see what they can tell me about the individual, and get some idea of you know, how big the estate is, where he was born, whether he was married, whether he had children, name of his parents, if I can get it, brothers and sisters, this type of thing.
As Dave tries to get information for a family tree out on the road, back in the office, the team decide to look into other options. The absence of a birth record for Peter may mean he was adopted, so the team start to investigate this possibility further.
Being adopted is the same as having a total blood transfusion. You form part of your new family. And so the blood family we're now looking for are the adopted family, the father and the mother.
But if Peter was adopted, this could potentially delay their search. Adoptions are indexed by the parents' married surnames only, so there are no Christian or, more importantly, maiden names on these records. The only way to acquire these names is via the adoption certificate itself, but these records can take 24 hours to arrive. So in the meantime, they'll need to go down a different route.
What we're going to try and do is do a lot more inquiries, and we're going to try and work back the address of Peter, and we're going to see if we can get a name. We can get one person living with him at one time. We may be able to get a Christian name to be able to work out either the mother or the father, and therefore we can roll from that.
The team discover that Peter lived in the same house for many years, so Simon goes through all the records connected to the property to see if there is anyone else associated with it, and one name keeps cropping up.
Rose Florence Moon, born in 1901. It's all a bit spec on the basis it was an adoption, and we can't be 100% sure that Rose is actually the mother of the deceased. It just looks the most likely marriage to go with.
Although everything is pointing towards Rose Moon being Peter's mother, until they get it confirmed, the team can still only speculate. They need hard evidence and are relying on travelling heir hunter Dave Hadley to come up with it.
Right, well, we arrived at the address. Looks like a private house. I'm going to knock at the neighbours first.
On a case like this, any clues the neighbours can give will be invaluable.
I'm making inquiries about Peter Hollins that lived at number 12.
Yeah.
Did you know him at all?
Well, I only know him as a next
As a neighbour?
Yeah.
Could you tell me anything about him? Or do you know where he was born? Was he adopted or anything like that?
Well, this is what we heard, that he was adopted.
Right.
I know he come here 30 years ago.
Did he?
Yeah, he lived here for 30 years.
Right. You don't know if he had any children or nothing like that?
He definitely never had no children because he was gay.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
Dave is already starting to build up a picture of Peter's life, which, according to his friend Tom, is pretty accurate.
He was brought up in a time when being gay was quite taboo and not accepted, nowhere near to what it is now. And I think this reflected in his personality. I think this is probably why he was so withdrawn, if you like, because he was obviously worried about people's response about being gay.
Peter lived a lonely life and never found his soulmate.
The trouble with Peter was he used to set his expectations high. He used to see a personality, a good-looking man on television. He wanted to be with somebody like that. And I used to say to him, Peter, you've got to set your standards a little lower, if you like, because if you sort of take that attitude, you're never going to get anybody. And sadly, that was the case. He didn't.
Peter became more isolated as he got older, and towards the end of his life, he refused to see anyone, even his close friend Tom. He told no one about his last wishes, so the search for his beneficiaries goes on.
And we're trying to find relatives for Peter. Do you know what his parents' names were?
His name was Rose.
Definitely Rose. That's great. That's what we thought. Rose Moon.
That's it. Lovely. Thank you very much. That's confirmed it.
This is fantastic news. It's the breakthrough they've been after. Dave's street inquiries have been able to confirm Peter's mother was as they suspected, Rose Moon. So finally, back in the office, the team are able to start to draw up a family tree. Senior case manager David Pacifico comes on board. As Peter was Rose's only child, they need to look towards the extended family for heirs. Investigations show that Rose was the daughter of Charles Moon and Ada Penfold. They had 2 other children, Herbert and Leslie. Herbert was married twice, but died without any children. Leslie had 2 daughters, Josephine and Christina. Christina died without having children, so it appears that Josephine is the only heir on this stem. But there is a snag. Born in Croydon, she now lives up in Angus in Scotland, and unfortunately, the office has no travellers based up there. Neil can only speak to her on the phone, but he's not the only heir hunting company that's been in contact with her this morning.
Take care. Goodbye. She has been contacted by the competition. They phoned her very early this morning. They are going to visit her. I do not want to visit her as well. I don't think it's fair to put the family under undue pressure to sign a new agreement.
On this occasion, Neil has decided to go for the softly approach and only write to the heir. But he knows he is taking a risk, as the heir may end up signing with the competition. The office's painstaking detective work may have led them to their first heir, but further digging by Simon shows that Josephine might not be the only heir on the Moon side after all. Although their initial investigation showed that Herbert Moon didn't have any children, Simon has now discovered that he had a son, Desmond, from his first marriage.
So we have another heir on the Moon side, which we didn't know about. So there's now more than one stem that are entitled. So hopefully we might be the first to this one.
With competition hot on their heels, it's vital that the team gets to Desmond first. David Pacifico finds an address for him and puts in a call to Dave.
Dave, it's David here in the office. I need to speak to you as soon as possible. Looks like we've got another address. I would like you to go around as soon as possible.
Coming up, as the hunt for heirs hots up, things aren't as straightforward as they first appear.
When did he die?
Research into cases advertised by the Treasury is only one part of Fraser and Fraser's business. Some estates are referred to them directly from members of the public. In November 2009, Neil Fraser was told of a vacant property falling into disrepair.
It's an estate which came from a slightly different source for us. It came from someone who lives in the neighbourhood of the property, and they actually referred the property to us, not the deceased estate. They're interested in us trying to find out who owned the house, and from who owned the house, where they are now, and if they're going to do anything about it. Value-wise, I think we're looking at probably in the region of £200,000. Now, when we look at the street, the house stands out. It's the only one with boards up on the windows. It's the only one with a garage next door which looks like it's falling down, and it's certainly unpainted. So it stands out as being the eyesore in the road, and you can understand now why the neighbour or the neighbours around wanted to sort out this house.
The house is a 3-bedroom semi-detached property in Birmingham. Part of a 1930s development, the house has been vacant for over 2 years and is in a very shabby condition. Next-door neighbour Robert Faraday has always found the area peaceful. But recently, the house next door has become a constant nuisance.
We got the council involved because of the break-ins. It kept getting broken into all the time. And the council came along. We went in there, and there was hypodermic syringes and all things like that all over the floor. It was, I don't know what it was used for, but it was. There was breaking in on a regular basis. It's awful because you don't know what's going on. You hear the noise in the night because they would come over the fence into here, and then we're completely vulnerable at the back. At one stage, it was every other week. It was terrible.
Robert had reached the end of his tether, as he had heard nothing about how much longer it might sit vacant for. So he contacted the heir hunters to see what they could do.
It's important for us to identify who owns the property. It's owned by two different people, which gives us a slight headache to start with. It means that it's shared ownership. In this case, we got some inquiries that it was about a John Ashby. Now, when we get the document, it says actually John Durham Jocelyn Ashby. So straight away we've been able to extend his name out by giving two extra middle names, which will make research, which makes it very easy to identify.
John Ashby was the last resident at the address, and Robert knew him well before he passed away in April 2007.
John was a very private man. He liked his snooker. We used to talk snooker quite a bit. If you went out with him socially, which I did on a couple of occasions, I went to his club. He was fine, you know, he was very talkative, but round the houses, round here, no, he didn't want to talk.
One thing John did speak affectionately about was his time in the army. Friends recount that he worked as an interpreter for a number of years, even mentioning working under General Montgomery, the man fabled for leading the Allied troops in North Africa against General Rommel in 1942. John was said to later have requested a transfer to the Royal Artillery, where he eventually reached the rank of Major.
It was in Burma and all those places, you know, he served in the war quite a bit.
As he had died, it would be John's beneficiaries that had an interest in the property, so Neil needed to do some more inquiries.
As far as we're aware at the moment, Mr. Ashby didn't leave a will. We're still yet to search the property, and it may well be in the property. And there's a few more inquiries which have still got to come back. But as it stands at the moment, we cannot find the will. So we treat him as intestate, and we follow down, drawing back his family tree to hopefully find the next of kin. Same way as we do on majority of our other estates.
Asheville.
Unlike other cases, however, Neil knew that this property was jointly owned. The other owner was a Mr. Pryor, who had also already passed away. In Mr. Pryor's case, a will has already been discovered, so his portion is in theory very straightforward to redistribute.
We know exactly where the money's, well, the property is going to go because he's left a will. And from that point of view, we'll just contact the executors or the beneficiaries, and we'll make them aware of the existence of an additional asset, really.
However, whilst Mr. Ashby's part remained unsolved, number 94 Shirley Road would remain a thorn in the neighbours' side. Fraser and Fraser decided to investigate properly, and case manager David Pacifico took over the task of finding heirs to the estate of John Ashby.
We needed to start somewhere, and therefore used our guy in Birmingham, Paul Matthews, to see if we can obtain more information, as well as obtaining the death certificates and any other local inquiries.
Paul Matthews is one of the company's regional heir hunters who travels around the country to pick up certificates.
OK, that's great. Thank you very much indeed.
And make local inquiries, all in the quest to sign up heirs.
Was that George? OK, cheers, thank you.
He's made his way to Solihull Register Office to pick up the death certificate. It should confirm John's full name, date of birth, and might even name a close friend of John's as an informant.
Well, I've now got the certificate of the deceased, who's John Durham Jocelyn Ashby. The office wanted to pick this up. We've got an address where he used to live. We're hoping for a good informant. Unfortunately, it's a coroner's job. So basically, there's no informant on this one, and we can't get it at this moment in time. So we'll have to go to the property concern where the deceased used to live. So it's not all we wanted, but it's at least a bit of a starting point.
A coroner informs on a death when the cause is unclear, sudden, or even suspicious. John died of a coronary heart disease, exacerbated by bronchopneumonia and infected sores. Although initially uncertain, the inquest established that this was the result of natural causes. Unfortunately for the heir hunters, a coroner rarely knows the deceased personally, and so this information will be of little help to their investigation. However, research in the office led by Gareth Langford progressed as they found records indicating who John's parents were.
What we were looking at was we had an Edgar Ashby and a Nora Badham. Once we'd established the parents' marriage, we had to see if the deceased had any brothers and sisters. It turns out he did. Hugh. Hugh was born in 1926 in West Bromwich. Unfortunately, it looks like he died a bachelor, and he didn't have any issues. So, from our point of view as research, that was a dead end for us.
Neither John nor his brother Hugh ever married. They remained close to each other and lived around the corner from one another for most of their lives. A lady who knew them both for over 25 years was Dallas.
They were two very different people, physically and their attitude, but they always did things together. So if one had come down here, the other one would come down here. They always did things together. And the thing I remember most about both of them is Hugh complaining to me that John wasn't domestic, not domesticated in any way. So Hugh used to go home whenever he could to at least maintain the front garden because he worried about the neighbours. That wasn't important in John's life. He was his own person, quite happy doing exactly what he wanted to do.
John might not have put a high value on appearances, but as well as being a major in the army, he was an accountant by trade, so Dallas never expected his final affairs to be so disorganised.
I'm very surprised that John, because he always struck me as being efficient, didn't make his will. But then maybe, particularly after Hugh died, obviously he would have been on his own. Maybe he didn't feel that he knew what to do, or what sort of will, what he was actually wanting to do.
As neither John nor Hugh had any children, the office had to look for cousins or their descendants to find heirs on the estate. Back in Birmingham, and Paul has made his way to the house where John lived. His first port of call is to visit next-door neighbour Robert personally, to see if he can shed any more light on John's estate or family.
Paul Matthews from Fraser and Fraser. Your husband kind of at the house next door. Could you spare us a few minutes?
Yeah, hang on a second.
I've got the grandkids then.
See, what happened, there was two brothers. Yeah. Both willed each other. The one died first, willing everything to his brother, and then before it was all done, before he changed his will, he died. So the two brothers died, both leaving a will.
So it's effect, it's no will in effect.
No will at all.
So it's no will in effect.
It turns out John did leave a will and left everything to his brother Hugh. Unfortunately, Hugh died in 2005, so the will is invalid, as there were no provisions for what happens in the event of his death. It is, after all, an intestacy case, so Frasers will need to find heirs. Robert has also mentioned that when Hugh died, he left everything to John, so all of his possessions, including his house, will be added to John's estate.
So basically, the brothers left John a property as well.
That's right. And John was an accountant, a major in the army, never married.
Oh, right. So you think it's a large estate?
I think so.
This is an important new piece of information. John's estate now comprises of 2 houses and other possessions, so is currently estimated to be worth £500,000. With such a valuable case unsolved, the heir hunters desperately need to find uncles or aunts of John's who might have had children. The focus of the investigation has switched back to the office, but can Gareth find an heir, or will the estimated £500,000 estate go to the government? For every case that is cracked, there are still many thousands which remain a mystery. When someone dies, their assets are kept for up to 30 years, in the hope that ultimately someone will remember and come forward to claim their legacy. The estates can range wildly in value from £5,000 to many millions, with the rightful heirs completely unaware of the windfall they could claim. Today, we've got 2 cases heir hunters have so far failed to solve. Could you have the answer? Maybe you're entitled to a windfall. James Mackin Curry Hutchinson died in Bristol on the 6th of July 1999. So far, every effort to find his rightful heir has failed, but could you be in line for a share of his legacy? Paul Jules passed away on the 12th of May 2001 in Stepney Green, East London. Do you recognise his name? Did he live in your neighbourhood? Maybe you're even related to him and one of his heirs. If no next of kin are found for James Hutchinson or Paul Jules, their cash will go to the government. But could it be meant for you? Heir hunting company Fraser & Fraser has been looking into the case of Peter Hollins. He died in 2009, leaving behind an estate that could be worth anywhere between £150,000 and £300,000. But all this money will end up in the Treasury's coffers unless his rightful beneficiaries are found. As Peter was adopted, the team initially found it tricky to trace his family tree.
Well, I can't see any Peter D. Hollins at all.
But by pulling together evidence discovered through Dave's door-to-door inquiries, the team were able to establish who Peter's adopted parents were and started to look towards his extended family for heirs. Now Dave is searching for the final pieces of the puzzle and heads off to the last known address for one of Peter's cousins, Desmond. But it's not good news.
When did he die?
Unfortunately, Desmond passed away earlier this year, but he had 4 sons. One of them lives at this address but is at work. But another son is on his way here now.
As Desmond has died, his share of Peter's estate passes on to his 4 sons, and so all Dave can do now is wait. Meanwhile, back in the office, senior case manager David Pacifico has been relentless in his search for heirs on the paternal side of the family tree.
Haven't had a stop for a drink yet. She's going to fade away.
Investigations show that Peter's father Frederick was the son of Francis Hollins and Edith Simmons. They had 8 children in total, so David is painstakingly looking for their children, as they would all be potential heirs.
We're looking for the descendants of this Aunt Doris Irene Hill, formerly Hollins, who married away back in 1919. We're still not certain exactly how many children they had. We're pretty certain that they had at least one son called Frederick, but may well have had a daughter, Kathleen.
Bye-bye.
While David Pacifico continues in the office, back on the road, David number 2 has just finished a successful meeting with one of Peter's first cousins once removed.
We had a good interview. He's given me a little bit of information about one of his brothers, and I've got an appointment to see another brother tomorrow. So it was a really useful interview, and it went really well, and he's happy to sign an agreement, and so I'm going to pass that information through to the office now.
Dave will return to Desmond's house later to meet another heir. And due to all of his hard work out on the road, back in the office, things are now coming together too.
We've been quite lucky, really because of the surname, because of the Hollins surname. With that, it's enabled us to speculatively find the deaths of the parents. When we found the deaths of the parents, we've been able to get onto the family. When we've got onto the family, they've been able to confirm about Peter and confirm that he's been adopted.
David Pacifico has been working through the paternal side of the family tree and has just got hold of one of Peter's cousins.
That's a very interesting phone call. She had 2 siblings. Frederick, who died in Aberdeen, that's why we couldn't pick him up for certain, who's got a son living up there in Aberdeen, so we hopefully to get his address. And a sister Joan, who we thought there might have been a sister Joan, She's had no contact for some 40-odd years. It seems Joan didn't want to know about her family and sort of disappeared. So we've got to track her down.
Doris Hollins married Frederick Hill and had 3 children, Peter's first cousins. They will all be entitled to a share of the estate. By speaking to Kathleen, David has discovered that Frederick's share will be passed down to his son, but the whereabouts of their sister Joan remains a mystery. The team will need to find her though, as she, like Peter's other heirs, could be in line for a life-changing sum of money.
Being conservative, and without really looking into it, I'd hope for a value of around about £200,000. £200,000 over the 5 stems is £40,000 per stem, and on 2 of the stems there's only 1 beneficiary on each, so that's a pretty good situation for them.
With all the twists and turns and the sheer number of heirs, the office has no choice but to take the case into a second day. So early the next morning, Neil gets another travelling heir hunter, Ewart Lindsay, out on the road. He's off to see one of Peter's cousins, Kathleen.
I've got an 11 o'clock appointment to see an heir who was a first cousin to the deceased on the paternal side of this case. I'm hoping I'll be on time. I mean, traffic's looking pretty good.
Also out and about this morning is another one of the team's experienced probate researchers.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Hello there, David Hadley. Pleased to meet you.
Dave signed up one of Peter's heirs yesterday, his cousin Desmond's son, and now hopes to get another one on side.
I work for a company called Fraser & Fraser, and we're probate researchers, and we trace missing heirs and beneficiaries. So we picked up a case yesterday of a gentleman that passed away in Croydon earlier this year. And we believe that you and your brothers are related to this person through your father.
Right.
While Dave Hadley is passing on the news of a potential windfall to an unsuspecting relative, back in the office, the team's detective work has solved the mystery of Kathleen's long-lost sister. Case manager Francis Brett calls Ewart to pass on the news.
The heir I'm going to see now, this is her sister.
That's right.
Right, okay.
And she dies in Kent as Rayburn.
Right.
Well, when you get there, you'll be able to tell her that we have established that her sister Joan is dead.
Right.
Ewart now has the unenviable task of passing this sad news on to Kathleen. Meanwhile, over in South London, Dave has just finished his meeting with Christopher.
Thanks very much. Any questions, just give us a bell.
Will do.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Right, well, I've just finished the interview with Christopher Moon, and it was a good interview, actually. He confirmed a lot of the information that we've already got. Didn't have any new information for me, but we're pretty much up to date, I think, on the tree anyway. And he's agreed to sign an agreement with us. So it was a successful day.
140 miles away in Nottinghamshire, Ewart has arrived at Kathleen's home, and his first task is to pass on his news.
Before I actually start interviewing you, okay, and seeing that we are actually, talking about your brother and it's going to go on to your sister, I know you wanted to find out what's happened to your sister.
Yes.
And I've just been told that she has passed away. Oh, right. Yeah, 2004.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
We're not too sure at the moment if she has any children, but she got married when she was about 21.
Right.
And I think she possibly did remarry, we believe, because she has died under a different name.
Right.
But we're not too sure if she had children.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking into, okay?
Right.
Before discussing Peter's inheritance, Ewart puts in a quick call to the office to double-check if there isn't any more information he can pass on to Kathleen. While he has been travelling to visit her, the office has been working hard to find out if Joan had any children, as they would also have a claim to Peter's estate. They found out she had a son, But this is not the only interesting information about Joan that the team are eager for Ewart to pass on.
Yes, I will. Mrs. Shovelton, we have now established that your sister did indeed have a son.
Yeah, one son did she just have?
One son, yes,
Right.
yes. From her second marriage.
Oh, right.
To a Mr. Rayburn. And it looks like she turns out she was actually a lady when she died.
Kathleen's sister rejected her family after she married Edward Rayburn, the 3rd Baronet of Helensburgh. Kathleen had no idea that Joan had married nobility or had had children, so the news that she has a nephew comes totally out of the blue.
Well, it's made me feel a lot better. I don't feel so lonely and so alone in the world, and as if there's just me and no one else about, no one I can maybe contact if they ever want to contact me. It's a very nice surprise, very.
Unfortunately, Kathleen never met her cousin Peter, but his legacy means that not only is she in line for a windfall, but thanks to the Heir Hunters, maybe she will now get the chance to meet a nephew she never knew existed.
It will be like having someone of my own, which I've never had, like except my son and my daughter-in-law. And it would be magical.
It's been a busy couple of days, especially for the travelling Heir Hunters out on the road, as it's been their investigations and detective work that have been instrumental in solving this case.
Okay, bye-bye. You know, it's quite pleasing to know that we've actually now put her in touch with her nephew, her sister's child, who she'd never known existed. You know, it's fabulous.
Fraser and Fraser have been referred the case of John Ashby by a neighbour who was worried about the derelict house John used to live in.
It's been terrible for a long time, but it's getting progressively worse now because it's got into this bad state. One of these days the whole lot will come down.
The value of the estate is estimated to be a staggering £500,000 and comprises of not one but 2 properties in Birmingham.
It was really a big estate and therefore so important for us to trace any of the blood heirs as soon as possible.
Research director Gareth Langford has been leading the team who built up the family tree.
His mother's maiden name, Badham, was that's a brilliant surname, so we were quite excited about that. Ashby itself isn't the best of names, but Badham, that's an amazing name to look at.
A good name can make the difference between solving a case in 2 years or 2 hours, and Gareth had hit the jackpot.
When you have a good surname, it makes things a lot easier for us because basically it means that we're looking at a lot less records than we would be. If you had the surname Smith, then there's a lot of records with the surname Smith. Ashby is quite a good surname. Badham is an exceptionally good name. Now, the marriage, it turns out, was actually in Islington, which was completely out of area. But it was the only Ashby-Badham marriage, so we felt sure that that was going to be the correct one.
John was the son of Nora Badham and Edgar Ashby. The research team already knew that John had a brother, Hugh. However, he died without having children, so the next port of call was to find uncles or aunts of the deceased. With a name like Badham to work with, it wasn't long before Gareth found just what he was looking for.
The next step was to look for the census of the mother. We quickly found that, and she was basically living with her parents and 2 siblings. And on the census, on the 1901 census, they were called Richard and Jack. Now, because the surname is so good, Badham is such a good surname, we weren't confused by the names on the census, so that gave us something to work with. We had a good name. I was quite confident that we were going to get in there. It's just a question of doing the research and getting to the bottom of it.
The office discovered that the Badham children spread across the world in later life, with Jack eventually passing away in the Bahamas a bachelor. Richard married a Doris Courtney in Lewisham, before settling in Brighton to have 2 children. But despite their adventurous lives, it was never a problem for the researchers to track them down.
With regards to the research, it was actually relatively straightforward, even though the family were moving around the country and we didn't miss anything. There were certainly no problems with the research. So it was quite satisfying that it's a dream case, perfect case really.
One of John's cousins was Trevor Badham. However, he had already passed away, and so Gareth's research led to his 2 children, Katie Pesey and her brother. They are John's cousins once removed and will both inherit a share of John's estate.
I was surprised to get a call from Fraser and Fraser. It's obviously not the sort of thing you expect, but I was more surprised to find out that it was John that hadn't left a valid will, because he was generally quite an organised chap.
Katie had met John at many family gatherings, although it had been over 10 years since she had seen him last.
I remember John from my youth. He used to come and visit my parents here in West Sholdington about once or twice a year with his brother Hugh. They always were wearing suit and tie, and they were always a little bit serious, I think. And they used to come and play bridge with my parents. Yeah, I remember the 2 brothers being very, very close. I never saw one without the other, and I always think of them as a pair. It's always Hugh and John.
Over the years, Katie lost touch with both of the brothers. After hearing that John had passed away, she also learnt that Hugh had died 2 years before him. All of a sudden, it made sense that John did not have a valid will.
I think after John's brother Hugh died, part of John probably died as well. They'd spent their whole life devoted to each other. And so I suppose it doesn't really surprise me that for the last 2 years of his life, he probably was a bit of a lost soul and didn't really think about things like that.
The puzzle of John Ashby's estate has been solved, as the heir hunters have successfully tracked down 7 beneficiaries in total.
We're absolutely delighted that we've managed to trace some blood heirs to what is going to be a very large estate. It's good news all round, I think.
Now the case is settled, the heirs can attend to the property, and John's old neighbours might finally be able to return to a peaceful life.
Well, I'm more than pleased that they found relatives. At one time I thought they'd never find anybody, and it would go on for years and years. But happily it's all sorted, and I'm more than pleased. At last we